Wyrd has just revealed a whole crew for the Witness keyword, including a master, and 3 of these characters come from all the way back in 1st edition. What's up everybody, Jeff here, and you've probably already heard the news that Wyrd just announced a brand new crew that's going to be available at Gen Con along with a brand new master, Damian Ravencroft. Now Damian, as well as Marco Bonatti, and Bella Thorpe all appeared in a story back in 1st edition. So let's go over that story, we'll talk about what we know about them, and then we'll talk about some of the clues we have about their connection with the Tyrant Witness. This story is told through a series of letters written by a witchling stalker, who we later find out is Damian Ravencroft. The letters are sent to Lucius Matheson, along with a report about a witchling stalker that got away, and a missing woman named Thorpe. The letters start by explaining some of the training that the stalker goes through, and his relationship with his handler, who he refers to as Master. We'll later find out that her name is Bellaventine Thorpe. On one of his first outings, Thorpe takes the stalker to the house of a woman who seems uncomfortable to see him. When the stalker later asks, he is told that the woman's son was killed by an ARCANIST that she later hunted. It's heavily implied that either Ravencroft was this ARCANIST, or, in the same manner as Darth Vader murdered your father, perhaps her son is Ravencroft. They soon leave, and the stalker begins having dreams about a maze on the floor of his cell, and having visions of a woman who he had killed as part of his training. On another outing, they take a sky car to the quarantine zone, and make their way into the basement of an abandoned building. They find it covered in books, paperwork, machines, and various other objects, including drawings of mazes, and a wooden puzzle box. Thorpe asks the stalker for his analysis of the person who used to live here, and he explains that the person seemed to be hungry for knowledge, and when he identifies a printing press, he speculates that the owner seemed to also like to share knowledge. The stalker adds that the man seemed to like games, and Thorpe agrees, and elaborates that this man was unusual, as he didn't live with others of his kind, though many ARCANISTs that she had captured knew about him. His name was Damian Ravencroft, and many people had sought out his help in understanding arcane relics, translating runes, or finding important items. Even Victor Ramos himself was said to have come to Ravencroft for help in the past. Some in the guild say he has a vast underground crime network, while others think he was obsessed with the idea of spreading knowledge of the arcane as far and wide as possible to democratize access to magic. She had found him difficult to hunt, but one day he killed 3 people, and she tracked him down to this very den. When she found him, he was unremorseful, and she was easily able to take him in. When the stalker gets back to his cell, he has the puzzle box, and wonders why his master didn't mind him taking it. He finds it difficult to trace the maze inscribed on the puzzle box, and asks other guild personnel for help. They get angry at him, and don't seem to be able to see the box, even though he's holding it. On his next outing, they hunt an ARCANIST named Marco Bonatti, who is said to be able to make the tattoos on his skin come to life, and do his bidding. They chase him down, and when the stalker corners him, the man tries to summon his magic, but the runes on the stalker absorb it. He raises his sword to strike down Bonatti, but suddenly sees a vision of the woman he killed, and is unable to land the blow. Thorpe doesn't seem surprised, but takes the man as prisoner, and explains that he'll probably make a good witchling stalker, and then elaborates a bit on how they're created by taking a mage, and taking them to a secret room called the Yellow Crypt, and burning away their powers, their memories, and their identity, and then infusing them with runes that drain away magic. Thorpe soon takes the stalker to the morgue, where she asks to see the bodies of Ravencroft's 3 victims. She's told that there was nothing left but ashes, and then asks to see their personal effects. Once she looks at them, she seems to discover something, and they leave. He seems to be getting closer to opening the puzzle box by tracing the maze, and the next day, Thorpe comes to him, and he asks if she's taking him out. She tells him that if he leaves, it won't be with her, but that she'll be waiting, and explains that he seems to be almost done with what he came for. He tells her that he didn't come here, he was captured, and she asks him, "Were you now?" Later, he sees a vision which he knows is a memory of himself with his head in one of the machines as it cuts into the back of his skull, carving runes that will protect him from Sonia Crid's magic in the Yellow Crypt. He then fashions a puzzle box out of thoughts alone, and the stalker realizes that he knows what's in the box, himself. All of his memories and abilities are inside the box, and he begins tracing the pattern of the scar across his head as he traces the same pattern on the puzzle box. He feels his identity return, and conjures up another memory of the day he was brought to the Yellow Crypt to be turned. He looks around at the floor, and reads the runes, the most powerful and jealously kept magics the guild has, and he remembers all of it. Now, in addition to those characters, we also know quite a bit about Loeth Bott. If you want to learn more about him, I did a video breaking down all of his lore, and you can find him in the Sandeep lore guide, where I take you through all the details of the story that he appeared in. But long story short, he was a guy who was terrorized by Gaiman. He came to Sandeep and Rasputina for help, and they brought him to a cave where he got sucked into the Soulstone Geode. Now, the Soulstone Geode is where Witness lives, and that's where we got our first hint about the connection between this crew and Witness. So the only other clues we have about the connection come from the article that was released along with Lothbot's card a few weeks ago. In that article, we're told that someone wanders into Lothbot's cave and releases him. And we're also told that this person is curious but not cruel, and has experienced just as much pain and suffering as Loth has. This description matches Ravencroft to a T. And this all makes sense, because we know that Ravencroft is very curious about all things related to magic. And we also know that there's a good chance he knew about the Soulstone Geode, since he had some contact with Ramos, who is obsessed with finding it. I think it's likely that we'll get a story in the next book, where Ravencroft gets some information about the Geode, goes to find it, and releases Loth from his prison. In the process, perhaps he'll be touched by Witness, or even taken as a host. So that's everything we know so far as the lore goes, but I wanted to touch on a couple more things, because we've already been shown all of the rules for the models in this crew. There's a couple of really interesting lore tie-ins, and thematic abilities, which is something that Wyrd has always done a great job with, and I'm glad to see they've continued. To start off, let's take a look at Damian Ravencroft himself. While we can't see the scars on his head, you might notice that he has the sword that he would have been issued as a Witchling Stalker. He also has the abilities Memories of the Yellow Crypt and Confiscated Lore, which refer to his ordeal from the story. He also has Superiority Complex, Esoteric Debate, and Knowledge is Power, which seem like more hints at his backstory as a highly intellectual mage who wants to share knowledge of the arcane with the world. And last, we have Witness the In-Between, which could refer both to his relationship with Witness and his time spent with his memories wiped when he was a Witchling Stalker. Next, we have Bellaventine Thorpe, who appears to have a skull painted on her face. This was actually mentioned in the story as something that she did before they went out on missions. Her abilities, Guild Deserter and Right Side of the Law, both refer to the fact that she was a former Witchling handler who decided to go rogue. Marco Bonatti seems to have gotten a new fit, but his ability Ink Fingers refers to the fact that he can animate his tattoos and use them in battle. His melee attack, Claws, was also referenced in the story, as some of his victims looked like they were attacked by wild animals. Finally, we have the puzzle box, which Witchling Ravencroft seemed to think was made out of wood, but we later learned was formed by his thoughts. It also seems like others were not able to see it, so perhaps this puzzle box is a new creation. So that's everything we know so far about Damian Ravencroft and the Witness crew. If you found this video interesting, make sure you check out the other videos I've done on some of the unreleased stuff coming from Malifaux, and be sure to hop into the Discord if you want to talk about this or anything else Malifaux or gaming related. If you want to learn even more about the rules related to Damian and the crew, make sure you check out the video done by the Danger Planet linked up in the cards. They go over all the rules for the crew and give their impressions on how they're going to play. As a bonus, you can also find out what happens if Damian and Sonia accidentally show up to the same party. Spoiler alert, it's not good.